welcome to the Don't Judge, Just Love podcast, where we talk about all the things
with no judgment, only love.
That's right. Here with Chase Willardson and Shannon Willardson.
Yeah, baby.
So what are we talking about today, Shannon?
You tell me, Chase. You always ask me that, and I think you should tell us.
I think that we should talk. So one of the questions that you often get from people, and even friends that we have, is with everything that you have going on, how do you make sure to take care of yourself?
Yes.
How do you take care of yourselves?
Self-care.
So this episode, we want to talk a little bit about self-care.
Self-care.
And how we treat self-care.
What that looks like for us.
What it looks like for us.
How we've kind of realized how important it is, like what a priority it needs to be. And I'll just jump in there. So I think the first distinction for me on this topic is just the absolute necessity for self-care. I feel like historically there's like that propensity for attaching guilt to self-care for whatever reason. And I just think I think we're kind of evolving past that point though, where it feels like we're starting to understand like, no, you can't pour from an empty cup right?
Yeah, totally.
Can't fill anyone else's cup if your pitcher is empty. How does that? If you're watching
on YouTube, you can see Shannon pouring this.
If your pitcher is empty, then you can't put any water in someone else's.
Or like the
cup.
airplane analogy, right? Put on your mask first before you.
It's better. It's a better
put on someone else's mask, but it was a very good analogy. I love the pitcher analogy.
Here. But yeah, and it's just so true, right? So that's been a big thing for me personally, is just being okay with it. First of all, like just kind of trying to remove that guilt that, you can sometimes feel for prioritizing self-care. I can't talk today. It's fine.
You're doing a great job.
The second distinction to me is identifying what self-care means for you personally. So I've come to learn that it's very different for everyone. Like different things kind of check that box for different people. What is self-care to me may be totally different than what is self-care for you.
Absolutely. So do you want to start us off? What does self-care look like for Shannon Willardson?
Why don't you start us off, Chase? What are the things that work for you for self-care?
So as I was kind of researching before this, I thought we think of the typical answers, right, for self-care. And I think you'll see in the answers that we give that the things that the typical answers that people give and do for self-care are things that we do as well. But I found there was this thing as I was kind of Googling before our podcast to kind of prepare. It talked about the 7 pillars of self-care, and they talk about mental, emotional, physical, environmental, spiritual, recreational, and social. And I think it's interesting because there's things that I think can touch on all of those, but then at times you can just focus on one of those areas if you feel like your pitcher is not full in that area. But yeah, so I think for me, interesting things that I do for self-care, like the typical answers that you've heard, exercising in the morning usually works best for me. But if I don't get it in the morning, then late at night is another time. Going for a walk.
Late night workouts are the worst.
Going for a walk outside, especially during the summer when that sun's out there. It feels really nice.
For sure.
Listening to podcasts or books. Another thing that I really enjoy, in one of our previous episodes, we talked about cooking and how I do a lot of the cooking, even though Shannon was like, well, I don't think I'd give Chase all of that credit because
Chick-fil-A
we definitely order from Chick-fil-A and other DoorDash.
Costa Vida does a lot of our cooking.
Places, but
if it's not them, it's Chase. That's true.
But I do enjoy cooking.
Yeah.
I really do. And
you're good at it.
And I, whether it's
very hot,
macro friendly recipes, or it's like a HelloFresh meal, or something like that. But I enjoy,
Home
like, I
Chef,
feel like
we
it's
love-
very therapeutic
Shout out to
for
Home
me.
Chef.
That's right.
This is not sponsored.
This is not.
Wish it was.
but
Wish it was, but no, just kidding.
no,
We
or
do love Home
Hello
Chef.
Fresh, right? Hello Fresh.
Home
Usually.
Chef.
Home Chef as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've used a lot of Home
Yeah.
Chef. Get it right.
No,
Chase.
I think we've used both.
Yeah, we have.
But another thing is washing the dishes. So I do. I enjoy like washing the dishes.
Gosh.
Maybe I shouldn't have
That's
said that.
your version of self-care?
No, I mean, I just think it's like very therapeutic for
This
me.
is
Like,
news to me. All right. Well, I'm going to lean into that one. Okay. Good to know.
So, actually, a couple weekends ago, Shannon spent some time with her girlfriends. She has some high school girlfriends that she does things with on a regular basis. But I think
No.
on a
Once
annual
a year.
basis. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Once
An
a year,
annual
we all
basis.
get together. My two best friends.
But
Keep
you'll
going.
go and hang out with them and for a weekend. And I
On
do
a
the same
regular
thing with,
basis.
I have my brothers and sometimes cousins will join, but we'll do like a boys trip. And I mean, I still think we took a trip in the middle of when COVID first started, and it was an RV trip.
Yeah,
And we still reminisce about that trip. It was a couple days.
that was
and
your first one though, right? Like,
It was our first one with my cousins, but with my brothers, we do something every year.
yeah.
So
But you guys loved it enough that you were like, okay, this needs to be a thing.
it does. It needs to
every
be a
year.
staple. It needs to be a thing.
Yeah,
And
That's
then I
great.
Jen and I like movies and shows and other things to kind of decompress. Yeah, those are the ones that kind of come to mind for me. And then actually, when it talks about spiritual, so I'm not going to dive like too much into this, but our faith is a big part of our lives. And so, reading the scriptures, reading religious books, praying. We also have a place that we go to a chapel. It's where we worship on Sundays. But we also have a place we call the temple, and we'll go to the temple and we'll worship there at the temple. And it is it's another way that I feel like another way that I approach kind of my self-care.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that one up because I wouldn't have thought of that one as self-care, but when you say that, I'm like, that is 100% self-care. Because every Sunday when we go to church, yeah, I know we both feel this way. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I needed this, you know? It helps me, it just kind of like helps me recenter and reshifts my perspective on like what actually matters, which is like so important because I think so, at least for me, so much of the stress that I carry is from inadvertently, like not even realizing it, but just kind of, having that perspective get off course a little bit, and putting too much emphasis on the things that like actually don't matter, like they matter somewhat in the short term, but from the grand eternal perspective, they're not actually that important. So that's a huge one for me too. For me, so this is interesting. Like I was saying, self-care is different for different people. I feel like a lot of people, they think of like baths or,
Massages.
Massages. I literally hate both of those
Shannon doesn't
things.
like massages, so we've gone a couple times to go and get a massage. And I'm like, how was it?
It's so
And she was
weird.
like, I didn't like that person the stranger, like touching me.
I think I have. I've just kind of accepted, like, I don't love massages.
yeah.
Every time I've tried to get one, it's not like it's bad, but I never walk away being like, I can't wait till I get to do that again, so whatever. And it's fine. That's just like, that's not my version of self-care. I don't really enjoy baths because for me, it's a lot of work and then you're just kind of like sitting in your filth. So that's not my thing, but I know it is for a lot of people.
We want to take a second and talk about Family Made, the network. It's the network that makes this podcast and so many others happen.
Yes, I'm sure y'all have heard of Shawn Johnson, the incredible former Olympic gold medalist, someone I have admired for many years, by the way, and her husband, Andrew East. But what you may not know about them is that they actually started Family Made as a way to get you excited about family life and connect you with resources that support you along your journey.
And if you're loving our show, which we hope you are, you need to check out the other shows Family Made Media has on their website. There's shows that touch on just about everything a relationship or family could go through. So you'll find shows that you can relate to.
For sure. I could not agree more, Chase. Head over to familymade.com to check out the list. There's shows about literally everything, y'all. Adoption, raising large families, marriage struggles, addiction, special needs, hot topics, family values, inspiring stories, and so much more.
There really is something for everyone. So go check out familymade.com to learn more. It's such a good resource no matter what season of family life you're in.
For me, my versions of self-care, a big one for me is I have a little bit of like a nighttime
snack
ritual.
Oh, sorry.
That does involve snacks for sure. Self-care for me does usually involve food. I'm not going to lie. There's probably some stuff I need to unpack there about emotionally eating or whatever. But no, yeah, I have kind of a nighttime ritual where I get like my favorite snacks and I eat them in my bed. I do that. Chase loves it. And then I have a show. Like I love having a show that I can look forward to. And it kind of helps me like wind down. And usually like I'm working as I watch my show, like just, kind of doing mindless things on my computer. But it's nice. That is for sure a version of self-care for me. Exercise is, as much as like I am definitely someone who is a bit reluctant at times about working out, but I also am someone who once I am doing it, especially lifting weights, like once I get going, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this. I totally get the endorphin rush and the whole thing. And that's a huge, huge self-care thing for me. Another big self-care thing for me, this one's like kind of embarrassing to explain, but I do feel like for me, there are certain like aesthetic things that kind of like help me feel better. Like I love me a spray tan. Much to Chase's dismay.
She does.
I do love me a spray tan. I don't know why. It instantly boosts my mood. It makes me feel more at peace, more zen, just better about everything. So that's another thing I've just kind of embraced. I'm like, all right, if, I'm going to get my regular spray tans or like whatever, self-tan, whatever it is. And there's a couple things like that, like having my eyebrows done.
Nails.
But nails for me, that is not a self-care thing. Because I like almost get anxious when I'm getting my nails done. I'm like, oh, I just want it to be over. And obviously I like the way it looks afterward.
Your nails look very nice, by the way.
Thank you. Just got them done. But that is not necessarily something that I do as self-care because it doesn't have that effect for me. So again, that's kind of the distinguishing point, I think, is like self-care is anything that, how would we define that? It's anything that fills your cup. It's anything that makes you feel restored in some way, right?
Yeah.
Another big one for me is spending time with my safe people. I am an ambivert, which is a thing. It's like a mix of being introverted and extroverted. And I can't remember which I am. If I'm an introverted extrovert, I think I'm that. So, which means that for the people that I feel really close to, I could be around them almost all the time. Like, I'm not someone who necessarily needs alone time. If you're someone in my, safe circle, like people that I feel super safe with. Anyone outside of that circle, though, I'm more introverted, meaning like it takes energy from me to spend time around people that I'm not already super close to. And it's not that I don't enjoy it, but I have to, I kind of have to do it in small doses because otherwise, I just feel drained. And so, spending time with my sisters, with Chase, with my two besties that we hang out regularly. No, we get together
once a year. I'm sorry, I totally messed that up.
My two best friends from childhood. We're still besties, and we get together once a year, and that is always super restoring. Helps me recharge. Another Another one recently for me that I have come to value a whole lot more is just getting outside and getting some like actual like sunlight, or, you know, if it's in
Nature.
the winter, yeah, just like being outside, even if it's just for a small window every day. Um, I think I am kind
We
of,
both work from home.
yeah, we both work from home, and it's just easy to kind of get like bottled up, or like the only outside time you have is, you know, walking from the house to your car, that type of thing. But I have found like, oh, it feels really nice, and it is kind of like a quick boost of a quick little recharge, just being outside for even like a couple minutes.
Yeah.
It kind of instantly goes. Here's another one. This is the last one I'll say, and then we can wrap this up. Because I also feel like the big question here probably, I mean, this is what comes to my mind when I hear people talk about self-care, is like, okay, cool, but how do you find the time? Like, where do I fit that in? Life is life is crazy. I almost said crazy, busy and crazy.
Yeah, that's the new
Crazy.
word.
It
Crazy.
is. It's crazy. Crazy, y'all. It is, though.
The trend started here. Crazy.
Oh, my gosh.
Hashtag crazy.
Okay.
Just
But finding ways to, like, the really quick and simple self-care versions of self-care that work for you, I think is huge. One for me is literally just, and it sounds so stupid, it's like jumping around in place and kind of like moving my body just in place wherever I am. Chase and I went to some...
Tony Robbins?
Yeah, it was Tony Robbins. It was a Tony Robbins conference. If you don't know who Tony Robbins is, he is a motivational speaker, like kind of the OG of motivational speaking. His conference was amazing. But that was one of the things he talked about, is that if you need to change your if you need to change your mental state, like you're just feeling kind of funky or whatever it may be, feeling uninspired, feeling down, one of the fastest ways to do that is to change your physiological state. And you can do that by just moving your body. So I will randomly multiple times throughout the day just start like jumping around in place. And it helps. And it's nice because you know, it's that quick recharge, and you can do that as many times as you want. Might look a little bit like a freak, constantly
that's okay. Yeah.
hopping around, but it works.
Yeah, it's interesting. Tony Robbins, in that same kind of, what was it called? I'm trying to think of. Conference, yeah. This event that we went to of his, he talks about how we make it really easy for ourselves to feel bad, and really hard for ourselves to feel good. And so,
oh my gosh, so true.
And so it was interesting to me because as you look at this list of all of these things, the reality is we don't do all of these things on a regular basis, right? Like we do as many of those things as we can kind of fit into the day or a schedule. But the thing is that he said, instead of it being, and I need to do this and this and this and this and check all of these things off to have the perfect morning routine, to have the perfect, self-care routine, it's or. So it's doing this or this or this or this, really making it easy for yourself to feel good, and that everything counts towards self-care. So whatever it is, if you only have a minute to do something, if you can just jump up and down to kind of change your state, that's something that works. And so Shannon and I will we'll do that to change our state. And a couple of others that came to mind that I wanted to mention real quick is, I think journaling is really powerful.
Do you do that?
I do, yeah.
I used to do that. It was powerful. Man, I don't do that anymore though. I used to love journaling.
And when I do journal, I feel like it's very like fulfilling and satisfying. And then at the same time, I'm able to kind of set the tone or focus on like, hey, tomorrow, here are the things that I want to do. And here are the people that I want to focus on.
That does.
And
when do you journal? I don't see you journal.
I journal in the morning. I do. I can show it to you. No, I really
kidding.
do.
I believe you. Can I read your journals?
Sure. Yeah, no, of course you can. But no, there's some questions. So Randy Garn is somebody that I follow on social media, and he talks about questions that he asks himself, and I think he'll do it either at the end of the day or I think it's at the end of the day, planning for the next day. But he talks about, the first question is, how did I recognize God's hand in my life?
Love
The
that.
next question is, who are the 3 to 5 people that I want to bless today or tomorrow? And then what are the absolute necessary things that I need to get done that day? And so
That's great.
I've done that. And when I've done that,
This is the first time I'm hearing this. That's a really good nugget there, Chase and Randy.
So during the day,
good
like
episode.
when I do those things, I notice a very noticeable and recognizable difference in my day and how it goes. And also I love starting out the day focusing on like who are the 3 to 5 people that I want to bless today.
Yeah,
and so it's like, could I send a text message to them of something that I admire about them? Or if there's some article or something that I read or a book that I feel like, hey, this book made me think of you. Or, hey, is there anything I can do to help you out, with whatever they're working on or doing? Or anyways, I feel like when I start my day out like that, I just feel like, and this sounds cheesy, but I've already won the day, no, but I feel like I feel more fulfilled. Like I'm like, hey, I've focused on others and I feel like my pitcher is full, and I'm kind of ready to tackle the rest of the day.
Yeah, I do also feel a huge difference when I actually like plan. That is a big weak spot for me. That and sleep are my 2 areas that like.
But when you do it, I feel like
it's
you're
amazing.
like in the zone.
It does make such a huge difference. Like if there was anything I wish I could get myself to like implement really consistently, it would be those 2 things: getting more sleep and just having more consistent like set aside planning sessions where I really get into it. Yeah, so you're inspiring me to make that a higher priority. But that's also a good point. Maybe we'll end on this point, is that, like it's not about getting it perfect. Nobody does, and we certainly don't. Mm-hmm. I definitely do not.
And she's like, and then Chase definitely does.
Chase definitely doesn't. I mean, talk about him. No, just kidding. But just again, like recognizing that you need it, you deserve it, and not only is it going to benefit you, but it benefits everyone else around you. Getting those little self-care moments in.
Absolutely.
Super important. So let us know what y'all do for self-care. How do you fit it in? What works for you? And let's continue the discussion. You can do so on social media at Shannon Willardson on Instagram and TikTok, and then the Willardson family on YouTube. And you can listen to our podcast anywhere you listen to your podcasts, per usual.
Or on YouTube also at Family Made Media.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us on another episode.
Yes.
And look forward to chatting with you guys soon. Take care.
Take care of yourselves.